Welcome aboard the National Football Show. Dan Sileo here for you. And how about all these great sporting events going on right now? NBA playoffs, you have Major League Baseball, pretty good rivalry going on between the Padres and the Dodgers, and all the NHL action too as we're getting closer and closer to seeing full houses with all the fans. That's what I'm really excited about. Hope your day's going great. Power-packed again. I'll say it one more time. We are a month away from the start of NFL training camps. God, thank you so much. After what we've all been through the last 18 months, getting to where we are today, how refreshing is it to go out in public now, to see people and their faces again, and all the things that we took for granted when it came to sports, game-winning shots, fans going crazy, fans running on the court, us being able to debate whether or not Ben Simmons can be fixed or not, talking about Carson Wentz and whether or not he's going to be a success in Indy. Matthew Stafford, same thing. Isn't it great? You know, I was doing my national radio show last year, and we were right in the middle of the heart of the pandemic when we were doing it. And I can tell you this. I said it, and I'll say it again to you. You know, the selling of sports is so important. And that's one of the things that I learned through that pandemic was don't take anything for granted. You know, I was watching soccer. I was watching a celebrity golf event with Brady and Mickelson last year. I mean, just to get myself, you know, some sports and a fix of it. Boy, I'm telling you, man, summertime, July 4th, then we get into the camps, then we get into fall. When it comes to college football in the NFL, it is absolutely all good. All right, let's dive into our sandbox, which is football. And I so love that we are able to give you some of the biggest names in the history of football, college and pro. We got a Power Pack show for you again. We will talk to the golden voice of the San Francisco 49ers, Ted Robinson. If that name sounds familiar, yes, he also calls all the Grand Slam matches for Wimbledon, French Open, the Australian, and the U.S. Open. And he's been doing that for years now. Works with John McEnroe, who I think is one of the absolute best analysts in all of sports. By the way, the two best analysts in sports, actually, you know what? I'll throw Romo in there now. John McEnroe and Tony Romo, those two along with Barkley, you're talking three of the greatest analysts in all of sports right now. And McEnroe is one of those guys. So we'll talk to Ted Robinson. Also, there is a man that's finally got his justice. He is the first minority head football coach to win a Super Bowl. I know everybody still has, you know, the impression that Tony Dungy was the first minority to win a Super Bowl. That's not true. The first minority to win a Super Bowl, and actually he's won two, is Tom Flores. And he's waited all these decades for his justice to finally get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. By the way, Coors Light did a solid for Coach Flores, man. They put up all those promotions, and it was just fantastic about Coach finally getting an opportunity to go to Canton and to put that gold jacket on and to finally represent everything that the Raiders are all about. Coach those fabulous Raider teams. Al Davis, obviously, at the front of all of this. One of the most important people the NFL has ever had. What a maverick he was. So we'll talk to Tom Flores as he gets his justice and goes into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Two of my favorite coaches, man. My guy Jimmy Johnson going in this summer, and also Tom Flores going in this summer. So those are our guests that we have lined up here for you today. All right, let me get into some of the stuff that has been, you know, coming out of the storyline when it comes to the Supreme Court's decision on paying student athletes. And again, it's not exactly that. It's loosening up some of the strings that the NCAA and some of these college commissioners and the conferences have put on these players when it comes to using their likeness. Now, here's it in a nutshell, and I'm going to paraphrase this here. I saw a story on CBS Sportsline. College commissioners and coaches and the NCAA are coming up with a plan on how they can legislate and delegate the new NIL law, which is going to give players the ability to be able to use their likeness and their name to make money. There's certain states already that have already passed that. California is most notable on that, and that's going to mean that anybody who works in Los Angeles at USC football is going to be able to use their name so that they can go and make some money on their name. And I've never thought that that was an issue, and I never understood why the NCAA had to have their hands on this. But I want you to hear what I just said. The NCAA is going to come up with a plan on how they can give players the ability for them to make money and not let this thing get over the line on how we distribute the cash. My question to the NCAA, known as the National Communist Association of America, who gave you that power that you could tell me still how to use my name and my likeness? Where did that come from? The NCAA was just given an ass kicking by the Supreme Court. Brett Kavanaugh, Justice Kavanaugh, said the NCAA is not above the law. In any business, anywhere in this country, you could not do what you do to your employees anywhere else, but only in the NCAA. Where do you get how about this? Where do you get the authority to still delegate how a player can use his own name? Where is that law written? Is that some bylaw that you're coming up with on the fly here? Because Justice Kavanaugh just got through saying you don't have the right or the authority to do that. They are so afraid of this. And I mean they, the NCAA and college commissioners. Because then boosters become such a major part of what college sports is not supposed to be about in their eyes. You know what's funny? All the things that SMU was doing back in the 80s, this is exactly what's going to happen. That program got put on probation. Basically has never been the same. SMU football has never seen the glory that they did when they had Eric Dickerson and Roger Craig and guys like Michael Carter and all those spectacular players. They've never seen that type of football ever again. They've been good in some spots, but never what they were then. That was a football team that was contending every year for the national championship. I almost went to school there. That was such a dynamic program. But all the Southwest Conference back then, the old Southwest Conference, started teaming up on SMU because Texas and Texas Tech and Texas A&M and all those schools were saying, well, wait a minute here. The boosters and even the governor, who was an SMU grad at the time, were giving money to the players and recruits. Well, that's what's going to happen right now. Highest bidder. Some of these schools are going to be so out in front that you're going to end so many programs. And you know what? I'm going to say this to you. Maybe rightfully so. Some of these college football programs are a drag on their athletic department when it comes to football. I mean, some of them shouldn't be playing football. I mean, look at San Diego State, for instance. San Diego State's not even playing in San Diego right now as they retrofit a stadium. And they had to come up with all these funny ways on building this 50,000 seat stadium. I think it's maybe 25,000, 35,000 seat stadium. They've ripped the queue apart. What 5-star kid's going to go and want to play at a 25,000 seat stadium? Nobody. Okay? I'm going to go to the big programs. I'm going to go to the programs that care about football. San Diego State's a basketball school. We're going to see over the next 5 years so many programs basically put to sleep. You know, these outlier programs. Like, get this. Why are you playing football at Rice? Why are you playing football there? Because it's a good experience? It's an economic smash over the head. Like, there's programs all over the country that shouldn't be doing it. Look at Gonzaga and what they do. Gonzaga's never going to ever put a football program together because they look at themselves as a basketball school. There's nothing wrong with that. And they're a dominant basketball program, probably the best basketball program on the West Coast now. Wow, that's crazy to say, isn't it? Gonzaga, Jesuit school, is now the best basketball program on the West Coast. So I saw this story today, and I was like, okay, who gave you the authority for you to be able to tell anybody how to use their name and their likeness on making money? Shouldn't it be up to the student athlete to do this? Knock on a guy's door at a car lot. Excuse me, sir. I'm the starting defensive tackle for the University of Miami or, say, the University of Texas. And I'm going to be on national television this week. And if you could do me a favor, I'll wear a hat for you, and you can use it in a promo all week long, Texas OU week. And if you could just sponsor me, that's how I would phrase it, sponsor me this week for $1,000, I'd really appreciate it during OU Texas week. What car dealership in their right mind in Dallas at the Red River rivalry that you wouldn't want to have a star player promoting your car lot or your restaurant that week? And I would phrase it the same way, sponsor me. I wouldn't say pay me. I'd say sponsor me. Why should they get that money? Why should they be able to tell you, they being the NCAA, of course, tell you how you could go about your own business? I thought the idea of going to college was to try to create a industry for yourself or to try to teach yourself how to fit into the business world. You know, we have like business departments, we have economic departments, and, you know, especially when you're talking about building yourself in a business school where you're trying to build a business. Isn't this building a business? This is good. This goes right to the fundamentals of business. Likeness, advertising, budgeting your money, all of that. And the NCAA wants to control it. Absolutely makes no sense. So we'll be keeping an eye on this. Yeah, they have no latitude to tell you what to do. I hope these kids let them know it too. You have no right to tell somebody, and you don't have the authority to tell these college kids how they can make money on their own name. Imagine telling Tiger Woods that. Tiger, the PGA Tour is going to give you parameters on how you can make money on your own name. What? All right, let's move on here. So here's the player reaction on this story, which has been a great story, with Carl Nassib, the defensive end, who came out and said he was gay, making him the first active NFL player to be on a roster and play that's actively homosexual, okay? And as predicted, everybody came out, awesome reviews, and everybody has been responding, giving all positive thumbs up. I'll give you some examples. Derek Carr, when he says that, and I'm paraphrasing some of this, when he says that he loves his teammates, he says he really does. The Raiders came out, were absolutely overjoyed with the fact that he had the kind of bravery, and I do think it does take bravery to do this. But before I go on with some of the accolades, do you think it's easier today to come out and say that you're gay compared to it was back in the day when you come out of college and you're a first-round draft choice, and the economics that are surrounding him now and the guaranteed 3-year contract that he signed with the Raiders out of Penn State guaranteed him millions of dollars, which meant this: whether or not people started blackballing him or not, financially, he was at peace of mind because financially they could not hurt him in any way. And it made it so maybe he doesn't go on and make more money. Maybe he does. Maybe there's more advertisements that'll be down the line for him. I don't know how this is going to play out in that world. But for him to be able to come out and say he's gay, there's an economic backfall in this. He knew he had money in the bank. And in my opinion, I think that makes it easier for him to be able to come out today. And hopefully what it does also is, and by the way, here's I said it yesterday, I don't really care. And I mean fundamentally, I don't really care. I just hope he can play football and he can help the Raiders win ball games. And he's a 10-sack guy. He's a really great player. I don't really care other than that. His sexuality has nothing to do. And I'll tell you this too. His sexuality has nothing to do with my friendship with him. If he's cool, hey, like I've said to you before, do you know who I hate? I hate a-holes and Nazis. Okay? Those are the people I hate. So for me, I can get along with anybody. And if you're cool, dude, that's how I judge you. You got great character and you're a good dude, I'm going to hang with you, man. We're good. Bring you over to my house. I don't even know what we're talking about. That wouldn't even be brought up in my house. No one would care in my house. I get why he did it. he wanted to be a beacon for those out there that have been hiding in closets and maybe don't have the economic backfall to be able to do something like this. But see, this is where he's missing it a little. So do you think actually if somebody came out who was a salesperson and was making $70,000 a year and they posted something on the internet that they were homosexual, how do you think that would go over in that person's place of business the next day? Positive or negative? Asking a question, not indicting. You know, he has money to do that. I call that FU money, which basically says, hey, you know, it doesn't really matter. Now, again, this is not negative, but this is calculated. You've got to know that there's going to be maybe positive and negative damage and collateral damage in something like this. Or maybe, like I said, maybe there's a windfall. You're already seeing the mainstream media, not the sports media, falling all over themselves over this. And that's what my fear is, that they're going to turn these NFL locker rooms into freak shows and start to say, hey, why don't other people come out? This guy had the onions. Actually, that's none of your business. So let me go on. Derek Carr. It was really cool to see Derek Carr make the comments. Bo Jackson came out, former Raider himself. I stand with you. Fantastic. Julian Edelman. Historic moment for a player coming out. James Franklin, the head football coach at Penn State. Proud of him. Led the nation, I didn't know, in sacks when he was at Penn State. Fantastic. James Franklin's a hell of a coach. I think James Franklin one day will have an opportunity to become a pro football coach. I think the job that he did now last year, I'm going to give it the COVID rub, and I'm going to say, let's just forget this thing here, and we'll see. But, you know, traditionally, every year that he has been there, it was one of the best hires Penn State could have made after Bill O'Brien. They got him out of Vanderbilt. That guy has done a whale of a job at coaching that Penn State program. You got to remember something about that Penn State program. You know what's funny about it? There's still always going to be, you know how Kent State, the three students that were murdered back in the 70s by the National Guard, when you think of Kent State, you don't think of Jack Lambert, or you don't think of some of the football legends that have come out of that program. You think of the three students that were killed there by the U.S. National Guard in protest, right? There's certain institutions you have that distinction of understanding that historical moment and what it meant to that program. Same thing with Penn State. How can you not think of Joe Paterno when you think of Penn State? You know, I'll tell you something, too. The media tries to do every single thing they can to erase the name of Joe Paterno. But with their silence, they don't get. Their silence makes you remind yourself of who made that program what it was. Penn State was nothing before Paterno. That stadium, when he took it over, I think was 30,000. Now, that stadium, Happy Valley, is over like 100,000 fans that show up. And by the way, Penn State fans, you talk about crazies, you talk about people that absolutely love their program. We are Penn State. I got a lot of respect for the players that were there, the Steve Wisniewskis of the world, all those guys, even the guys that I played in the national championship game against. Those guys are all my friends today. It took a couple decades. I won't lie. Okay? It took a couple decades. But I will tell you that it's finally now where many of those guys are my friends. And I really do look at these guys and give these guys great respect, because the name Penn State, the first thing people are going to say, did you play for Paterno? And how I would always say that is, I did play for Joe Paterno. Joe was a great coach. You know, I've posted numerous times some of the things that he said about me, which were just great reviews. Joe called me the best defensive tackle in the country. And he said Jerome Brown and myself were like the new salt and pepper of the modern age. He had two guys. He had Matt Millen and he had Bruce Clark. And those were the original salt and pepper guys. And he said, these are two of the finest defensive tackles I've seen since that combo. And I've posted that a few times. And I had great recruiting conversations with him. When I was at the Fiesta Bowl, I'll never forget, I'll tell you a quick story about Joe Paterno. So we're flying back after we get beat by those guys in the national title game. We got beat 14-10. I've said this before to you in case you haven't heard the radio show. We had like 500 yards in total offense. They had 148 total yards. They had 6 first downs. Our defense was just dynamic. But our quarterback, Vinny Testaverde, had 7 interceptions. We gave up more interceptions, our offense, than we gave up first downs to Penn State's offense, and we lost 14-10. Think of that. We had more interceptions, more turnovers than we gave up first downs. First play of the game, I sacked the quarterback for a 15-yard loss, and we were just dynamite. I'll never forget, I'm standing in the Phoenix airport, and I was going back home to see my folks. It's my birthday, too, by the way. Here comes Joe Paterno. He sits down next to me. I was like, wow. He must be flying somewhere. Where's the team? I didn't see the team anywhere near him. He sits down next to me, and he goes, yeah, I'm flying back. I got an event that I'm flying to in New York. I said to him, I go, Coach, congratulations. You guys really played great. He goes, let me tell you something, son. That was one hell of a performance that defense of yours put up. There's no way. That's one of the best defensives I've ever seen. I said, hey, Coach, it's a team effort. He goes, I'm really glad to hear you say that. I go, yeah, Coach Johnson, he wants me to talk more about team, but he goes, he told me about you. And we started laughing. We had a great conversation there. And he looked at me, he goes, mistake I made not recruiting you more and harder because I was from Connecticut. And, that neck of the woods is all his guys. And he goes, and you're Italian. And I said, yeah. And you look like my Uncle Bucky. And we started laughing and had such a great time. And, I've said this to you guys before. I said, Coach, well, you have a really great team. He said to me? He says, well, I'll tell you if we have a great team in 25 years from now. And I said to him, I go, what does that mean? He's like, well, if they're good people in the community, they give back to their community, they're civic leaders, they know the difference between right and wrong, and they're good husbands. Then I'll have a good team. See, it wasn't anything about wins and losses with Joe Paterno. And when you looked him in the face, you believed him. That's the contradiction of Coach Paterno. What do you believe? My personal relationship with the guy, it's hard for me not to give him just great rave and reviews about who I think he is. So it's tough on me. But to circle back, James Franklin, whale of a job. And he couldn't be more prouder of Carl Nassib on what he did yesterday by coming out and becoming the first gay player actively in the National Football League. All right, I've got my 2 teams that I believe that are going to be in Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles. How can you pay the athletes? And I'm going to tell you something about these NBA injuries that we saw with all these superstars. And I'm going to tie that into the National Football League. We'll do it next. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at IBEW98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. Dan Sileo. We're packed in hour 2, okay? Ted Robinson, the voice of the San Francisco 49ers, will be with us. And also a man going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, 2-time Super Bowl champion coach, Tom Flores. Looks like we're in the Bay Area today. So we'll do Raiders and we will do 49ers. Well, the majority of the Raider fans are still in the Bay Area. I know they're in Las Vegas now, so I got you there. By the way, I would even say this. There's probably more fans in Los Angeles for the Raiders than there are Charger fans. So the Raider fans are all over Los Angeles. All right, so we'll talk to those two gentlemen. That'll be in hour number 2. It's funny. I saw LeBron James go on his little tirade on his Twitter feed about, complaining about the players and all the superstars getting injured in the playoffs because he says it's because of the fact that they came out of the bubble, they started the season on short notice, and then it just basically caught up to the players in the end. That was his notion, that he thinks because they played that season last year, follow me here, they went as deep as they did, and they started that up on Christmas, and it was way too soon in his eyes. That's why he sees all these injuries with all these superstar guys that were in the first couple rounds of the NBA playoffs. I completely disagree 100% with that. 100%. Why do you think you see more injuries in the National Football League today early on in the year than you do later in the year? Why do you think that? I'll tell you exactly why. Because the new collective bargaining agreement that the NFL has with concussion protocols, it doesn't allow you to practice as much. And so when you don't have full contact like we did in the past, where you went to training camp for 3 months and you got your body physically prepared to play a 16, now 17-game NFL schedule, you put your body through the rigors that no gym, no treadmill, no bike, no mile runs, nothing can prepare you for. You can have the greatest conditioning program on the planet. But until you put the shoulder pads and helmet on and you go out there and have a 3-hour practice, that's football training. What's running a wind sprint got to do with making a tackle? Very little. You know those combine drills that the NFL puts the players through when they give the evaluation on looking at a kid, 40-yard dash, shuttle drills, and all that stuff? There's not one thing on that football field during those combines that you'll duplicate anywhere in a football game at any time in your career. You actually hire a guy that prepares you for the combines because it's going to be once in a lifetime that you'll ever have to do that. Never will you have to do those strength and conditioning tests ever again. Now, I'm not saying that teams don't have strength and conditioning tests. They do. They'll do the 225 bench and they'll do a 1.5 mile run, Got to make it in 12 minutes, or you got to do the Jimmy Johnson 16 110s or some variation of that. But very rarely are you going to do any of that. That's why when you see the high ankle sprains, the knee injuries, the calf injuries especially, those lower extremity injuries, that's because they're not hitting like they used to back in the day. That means this. When you don't have that kind of pressure being put on your body to prepare you for what your body's going to have to go through, you're going to see nicks. And to translate that into the NBA, that load management stuff that these guys take off 30, 40 games a year now, 20 games a year, it's because you're not active. It's not because you're more active. How many times, look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady never takes a month off of training. Isn't it common sense? You think Brady takes 6 months off or 3 months off of anything? Brady's back to training the next day, keeping his body honed. He prepares his body. When you sit at rest, your body lays at rest. And that's where you come up with these injuries. Taking weeks off is horrific for an athlete. Now, some would go like this. Well, what about a guy like Chris Paul? You know, you're talking about a 37-year-old guy. Yeah, okay. But you know what he's doing probably? Just to kind of just like duplicate him staying in shape. He's probably riding a bike like a maniac right now. And he's probably on the treadmill making sure that he doesn't lose his conditioning. Losing your conditioning is the easiest thing to do on the planet. And it's the hardest thing to keep up. Man, listen, I was a massive weight room guy. Held every record, and I was the strongest guy in every single weight room I ever was in my life. And losing my conditioning was always going to be the issue. So when you hear people talking about that, you're like, dude, man, it absolutely makes no sense here in what they're talking about here. So the NBA guys are soft. They're soft, dude. Play more. You won't see these injuries. All right. I love to do this stuff here as we get closer to an NFL training camp, and this may change, but I love doing this. You know, my two teams and my two favorite teams that I think are going to make an opportunity for themselves to maybe carve out a niche in 2021 to make it to a Super Bowl. And the rosters, the coaches, the experience, the fans, the schedule, the division they're in, all of that is taken into consideration in how I look at a particular team. And I don't think you'll be surprised on one of the teams, but I think you'll be surprised at the team that I'm picking to come out of the AFC. I'll make it simple for the NFC here and not, bore you to death here. I got the Bucs. I really do. I don't think that there is a team, unless Aaron Rodgers changes that dynamic. I don't believe that there is a team in the NFC that has the leader, that has the coach, that has the GM, that has the experience of a year ago and going through a pandemic. Think about what they did last year, the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers went through a pandemic last year, okay? Most of their stuff was done on Zoom calls. Most of their stuff was done with, like, conference calls. They weren't able to really even work together. And when they did work together, it was limited. The only reason that I really think, you want to know that I think the Buccaneers and the organization should do for the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis? I think they should send him a piece of that trophy. Because if it wasn't for him loosening up some of the limitations that you had when it came to congregating and getting together, I don't know if the Buccaneers win the Super Bowl, because that was one of the determining factors. The Bucs had access to one another because of the state of Florida not really kneeling down to many of the COVID rules that were being implemented in places like New York or California. Florida was more wide open. The restaurants rarely closed. The beaches were rarely closed. And Ron DeSantis should get a lot of credit for that because the Buccaneers took advantage of that. They were able to practice more. They were able to training camp more because the state of Florida had – you think there's any coincidence that both football teams won over 10 ball games last year because they had more access to one another? Dolphins won 10 games too. I mean, there's no question that played into the preparation because there were places like California – The 49ers at the end of the year couldn't even work out in their own facility because of the COVID restrictions. They couldn't work out there. They had to go to like Glendale, and they were in Glendale the last month of the season because San Francisco had put all those parameters when it came to COVID and contact tracing. You don't think that played something into some of the things too that went around when it came to teams preparing for the upcoming season? You know it did. So the Buccaneers, in my opinion, are going to be even better this year than what they were a year ago. And now that Brady's going to be able to get his hands when it comes to working with his players and being able to have a hands-on approach, Bruce Arians and him, man, that football team, barring any major injuries to Brady. And at 44, that's one. Hey, do we not do this? Who beats the Bucs this year in the NFL? Probably the injuries. Because I don't see a team out there beating them. I don't see a team. The only thing I see is injuries. Father Time is injuries. It's code. So if he could stay upright, and how about this? Say he misses a few games early in the year. I'm not concerned about that, even if they're 10-6 at the end of the season. If Brady's upright in December, they'll win again. They'll win again. Without any kind of devastating injuries in the offensive line, they'll win again. All right. Over on the AFC, this is probably going to piss off Eagle fans. I think the team coming out of the AFC is going to be the Indianapolis Colts. And I think Carson Wentz is going to be in the conversation for MVP. I think the job that Frank Reich is doing right now with Carson Wentz, think about what he's doing with Carson Wentz. He doesn't really have to have Carson Wentz play exceptional football. He has to have him play really good football, which means don't have a lot of picks. Don't take a lot of sacks. Don't hurt your football team because you got a football team now that last year with Phillip Rivers, who's one of the most reckless guys throwing the ball in the history of the sport. You've got that guy turning the football over, and they still won 11 games. You've got guys on that defensive side of the football, Buckner. They are spectacular on that side. And Chris Ballard, the general manager, if they see they need something in the open market, they're going to go get it. They know that they have a 5-year window now with Wentz as long as they keep that team together. It's the only football team coming back this year that's got a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense. And now you've made an upgrade at the quarterback position, so you think. From what I'm hearing too, Frank told Carson Wentz as soon as he got to town, dude, this is not a 1-year deal here. You're not going to have to look over your shoulder like you did in Philadelphia. This is your football team. You don't have a good year, we'll work on it. We are vested in you. That's Frank's mojo that I'm going to put a game plan around you, not make a game plan for the game plan to fit the general manager's roster. Do you understand that that's one of the reasons Philadelphia butted heads with the quarterback and the head coach and the general manager? That roster was not built for Carson Wentz. That roster was built for Howie Roseman. And Frank, with Chris Ballard, are turning that inside out. We're going to give you everything you need to win a ball game. Wide receivers. They signed a tight end in the offseason. I wish it was Zach Ertz, but so be it. They got a running game. They've got every component that they need to be a successful football team this year. And I think they're going to go to the AFC Championship game. I think Frank's got the offense. Now, Kansas City, people are going to go, what about KC? I think KC's right there. What about the Browns? What about the Browns? What about the Browns? Harder schedule this year? More expectations? They've never played in that environment ever. You're in a division that's not quite that bad now. How are you going to play? How is Baker Mayfield going to come back and play? Is he going to put 2 years in a row together where you go like this, you feel comfortable? I don't know, right? But when I look at the Colts the same way I looked at the Eagles 3 years ago. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they were spectacular in their lines. They were great in the O-line. They were great in the defensive line. They may not have been number one on both units, but they were number one as a combined group. Didn't matter who really the quarterback was. Did you ever not think about that? It didn't matter who was quarterback in the Philadelphia Eagles then. As long as a guy could make plays and not throw them into trouble, you were going to win, especially when you had the injury issues hit in the playoffs during that time. A lot of things fell the Eagles' way. And then they got into the Super Bowl and they beat the piss and doorknobs off the New England Patriots. Patriots had never seen anything like that, where somebody just jammed their own style of football down their throat. That's how they won that game. And what did the Patriots do the next year? They took that same Philadelphia style and beat the doorknobs off of the Rams. They beat them with Philly's game plan the next year. They kept that football team and that offense off the field. They ran the ball, low-scoring game. Patriots win. Another ring for Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and how they go about preparing for an upcoming game. That's what those guys do, man. And that's who those guys are. Make no mistake about it, man. So I got Buccaneers, and I have the Indianapolis Colts going to the Super Bowl. All right. We come back out of the timeout. I want to hit on this new 12-team playoff and where players are going to go with it from here. We'll do that next. You keep it right here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. Dan Sileo. Hour 2, Ted Robinson, the voice of the 49ers, and a man going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Tom Flores, will be with us. That'll be all in hour number 2. I don't know if you're watching this story here with Cameron Kinsley, the defensive back that's part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You don't know his story, and I hope you do know his story because it's an important story. He goes to Annapolis, or did, and he's a member of the Navy football team. Ended up playing his final season last year, and now he's a proud member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. On June 28th, he will have to report for his duties as a member of the United States Navy to fulfill his commitment that he made when he went to Annapolis, because you all know this. If you're a good football player like Napoleon Kaufman, or you were a great basketball player like David Robinson or Roger Staubach, there was a commitment that you had to fulfill before you can go and play professional sports. That was waived because the fact that David Robinson was a submarine admiral, and he was given that waiver because obviously you can't be 7 feet in a submarine. So he was given that waiver. So that's why he was able to play for the San Antonio Spurs right away. Well, the last administration was very kind to many military kids that gave their service for 4 years, and President Trump didn't hold them to the 5-year commitment after that they had to serve in the military before they could go and try to chase their dreams of being a professional athlete. He would give them a waiver. Well, as expected, anything that Trump did, the current administration is going to do the complete opposite of, just because they don't want to look like they're following that president's policy, even though there's a kid in the middle of this. What better representation can you have for the United States military schools than to have a kid who went to the academies, loves his country, and then in the process, something miraculous happened. He was given a chance to maybe play professional sports. Why not accentuate the United States military and using this kid here as a poster kid for wanting to go and play at Army or going and wanting to play at Navy? How is that a bad thing? Marco Rubio wrote a letter of recommendation to the President of the United States, Joe Biden, asking him to give this kid an opportunity to get that waiver so he can go and play. Nobody's guaranteeing him a spot on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bruce Arians has said as early as today that he would love to have the kid back, and if he's able to suit up and play for us, I'd love to see if he can be a part of our football team in 2021. What an absolute marvelous way to promote the military. But see, we're in a time in our country right now where, giving kudos to the police or giving kudos to our military men and women is something that's been put on the back burner. It's not important to promote first responders anymore. When people say cops are bad, boy, I'll tell you something. We're coming up on the anniversary, the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. I can't wait to see how the NFL does this in the current landscape. I can't wait to see how our society is going to give kudos to those first responders who ran the wrong way. By the way, I say the wrong way. I'll explain. So those folks were running back into the burning buildings in New York City at the trade centers. where everyone else was running the other way. They're running the wrong way. That's uncommon valor. Those were cops and firemen trying to save lives. Bad people? How are those guys bad people? Saving lives. But see, if you tune on any of the news networks now, you don't get that description of police or firemen. My pop was a fireman for 30 years, saving lives. That's why it matters to me. I'm not suggesting in any way that we don't open up our eyes to new holidays, to the way we did things, to how we could improve them moving forward. But when you cast a die and say that all police people are bad and military people you question, like June 6th, then you have people coming out saying, hey, I question some of the people in our military because of their loyalty to Donald Trump. We got a problem, man. 20th anniversary of 9/11 is coming around the corner. Has anybody even talked about the preparations for that? Has any network brought that up at all? Those people lost their lives, those airplanes. How about those brave Americans who put that plane in the ground? Let's roll. Dude, we need to be better than this. President of the United States, Joe Biden, forgot to mention D-Day. You know, he's plugged into everything that's going on right now because it's political. Is 9/11 really political? And when I see this Cameron Kinsley have an opportunity to represent the United States military, and maybe some kid is sitting there in high school doing this, man, you think I've got the grades to maybe get to Annapolis or to West Point and maybe be a factor in our country and get a chance to go to one of those prestigious schools? Maybe I can do it. Why not have a role model? Oh my God. And he's getting a chance to potentially play professional football? Holy cow. So you mean to tell me I can maybe go to the Naval Academy, serve my country, chase my dreams, and be somebody in the world. But because of the politics, political parties will get in the way of this kid's dream, most likely, because you're not going to do anything that the current administration feels is in the best interest for them moving forward when it's counterproductive of what anything that the last administration put out there for people to see, because Trump was very open with allowing those guys to go out and have an opportunity and chase their dreams or whatever professional sport it was. So I'm like, you're on the heels of 9/11 and you're going to stop this kid from having an opportunity and chasing his dream at maybe going to the National Football League. What a crime. What an absolute crime. Marco Rubio, good job for you, man. It's on the president's desk. If it gets signed, it'll be great. And you know what? You want to bring us all together? How does that not bring you all together? Kid getting an opportunity to play professional sports, who's United States Naval Academy, who eventually is going to still serve our country. It's crazy. I think it's a wonderful story if it ends right. All right. This 12-team playoff, it's really comical on how it's being presented to the public and how you're supposed to buy into that there's really an evaluation period that we're all going through here to sit there and suggest that these college commissioners don't see the economic value. Why do you think that they're going to a 12-team playoff? Can you guys? There's two reasons, actually. The NCAA is going to a 2-team college or 12-team college playoff system because of the devastation that COVID-19 has done to all the college programs and all the athletic departments across the country. There's economic dollars that have been just crippling some of these programs. Southeastern Conference had to take out a $330 million loan so that they could give their 10 institutions a $25 million check just to cover some of the COVID loss that they went through. And when you see a 12-team playoff now, you know that the economics are going to be over the top. You're going to have bidding wars that are going to go on with all networks, Fox, NBC, CBS, ESPN. All of them are going to be bidding. And this has turned into a $70 billion. And then, wait a minute, I didn't even add the advent of gambling into this. College football, as much as people don't like to say this because, it's kind of like, the dark corners of the sport where people don't really like to say, it's gambled on so much more than the NFL because of the amount of games that the games have each and every single week. I mean, now we have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and sometimes Labor Day night games. During the college football year, we could see a game played from Tuesday all the way to Saturday, right? Have the entire week, and then Sundays are for the NFL. Sunday night and Monday night are for the NFL. It's almost like it's all in cahoots with the networks, right? Tuesday, get this. Tuesday during the week, you see MAC games, Mid-American Conference games. You got Tuesday through Saturday, and then Sunday, Monday night, Thursday night too. You have NFL football. Football dominates the television networks now. That is their number one programming entity that they have, is the money that these colleges and the NFL generate. So, they're all going to work in cahoots with one another. And so when the commissioners are all talking with Bill Hancock, who we had on the program, and by the way, that soundbite that Bill had on that interview, I asked him flat out, Bill, are you uncomfortable talking about paying student athletes? He says, I am. When we go there, everything is going to hell. So Bill said everything is going to hell now. That was in the interview. And yet, get this, Bill knows paying college kids is coming. Supreme Court ruled on it. Mark Emmert, the president of the NCAA, is telling schools to start preparing that you're going to have to start paying these kids for likeness. I mean, you're going to have to start to come to a conversation now when it's dealing with paying the student athletes. 12-team playoff. Really? You don't really think we're still going to get Oklahoma, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia as your 4 teams anyway? So now get this. Alabama beats the piss out of NC State. Okay? Is that really competitive? Is that something that's really conducive to really winning when it comes to figuring out who the true national champion is? So this 12-team playoff. And by the way, I know what some people that are watching this are saying now. Dan, I live in Philly or I live in New York. I don't care. I live in California. You know why you don't care? Because it's a regionalized sport. College football is not a Northeast sport. College football is not a West Coast sport. That's why there's no interest in it. But the rest of the country, middle of America, the South, my friends, that's where the economic revenue comes from when it comes to football. All the conservative companies, the conservative owners. That's what I'm talking about here. You may look at, if you're sitting in Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, or you're sitting in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, you don't give a rat's ass what I'm saying right now because college football has never resonated with you because it's all about your big sports. Correct. But don't kid yourself. College football generates $4 billion a year. It almost matches the $6 billion the NFL makes. And now with gambling being a major part of it, man, you're talking major economic money. So who cares about the 12-team playoff that's being kicked around? They're going to do it. They're doing it because of losses. They're doing it because of the money. But what they can't figure out yet is how they can screw the kids over still by coming up with that stupid-ass notion that it's still amateur sports. Amateur sports. If I hear that again, I'm going to laugh at the next person that says it because it's not amateur sports. All right. So everything looks to be kumbaya going on in Seattle right now. Russell Wilson is being like, these guys are my boys. Everything is great. Massive contradiction on what's going on in Green Bay. I'll explain next. Hour 2, you keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 to 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back. National Football Show. Dan Sileo here on the JAKIB Media channel. We ask you to do this all the time. Do me a favor. Like the show, share the show. I don't care what the hell you do with it. Watch it in the bathroom and do whatever you need to. Throw it against the wall. Sileo, you son of a... How could you have that take? Oh, I've had a bunch of people asking me about my little soundbite. Cal, nice job, too, on the soundbite on Ben Simmons. People are like, well, Ben, the Sixers knew what they had with him. The Sixers knew what they had with him. The way they keep making excuses up for him. Do you know what the problem once again is with Ben Simmons? He's soft. He's soft mentally. If that guy was toilet paper, he'd be Charmin. He's soft. And watch this. I'm not really talking about a basketball player and his physicality on the court. Passing dunks up? Making excuses why you can't make free throws? That's mentally weak. Dude, if we were in a foxhole and people were charging us, I might have to shoot you and get your gun and defend myself because you're not somebody I want in a foxhole with me. Hey, man, you're not a guy that you can be counted on. I can't count on you, horse. Passing shots up. And legitimately, like Barkley said, afraid. Afraid. Man, oh, man. All right. Anyway, yeah, Ben Simmons, man. I made this deal up. Dude, if I was Mark Cuban, because I got to get rid of Porzingis, I'd see if the Sixers want to make this deal. Let me send Porzingis to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons. Let's see if we can make that deal. Or maybe if I'm the Golden State Warriors, I package up some of my draft choices and I bring him in because there's so many good perimeter shooters there. He's not going to be asked to shoot because you got Klay Thompson and you got Steph there. And you got two of the best defenders in NBA history. Okay? Unbelievable. Hey, I just got hammered again. No wonder you're a football guy. What a trash trade. Yeah, because you know why? Philadelphia don't know what to do with their boy. No, I'd send Porzingis. They need a shooter, man. They need somebody who can make some baskets. Watch this, too. One thing I'll say about Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is one of the top defensive guys in the NBA. You can't get around that. You put him on a team with two shooters. I'll tell you this. If you put Ben Simmons and you made him off the ball in Phoenix with Chris Paul, that team wins right now because they could shoot the rock and they could play defense. Imagine when they get Chris Paul back. I think they're going to get him back for game 3. Yeah, so Krause hates my trade. Yeah, Porzingis. Remember I said it. Mark Cuban, Porzingis to Philly. Get another shooter there in get a number 2 in Dallas. You'll win the championship and you'll win the West. Right. Okay. Let's see what we do there. Go ahead. Make the deal. Horrible deal. Great. Hey, we're going to catch up with our friend Ted Robinson here in a second. And we'll talk to him about the 49ers. 49ers look like they've built a roster, and could it be a Super Bowl roster? My friend Ted Robinson also does something else. You know what he does? He does all the major tennis matches. He just got back from I think it was the French, and he called that match. He calls Wimbledon, he calls the United States Open, and he calls the Australian. And he's been doing that with arguably one of the best analysts in all of sports, John McEnroe. And I just love McEnroe as an analyst. I just think he's absolutely the best. I think he's better than Tony Romo. So we'll talk to Ted here in a second. By the way, bottom of the hour, we'll talk to 2-time Super Bowl champion coach Tom Flores as Coach Flores gets ready to go into Canton, Ohio this summer. I know he's been looking forward to this for so long. We have been pimping this guy to make it to the Hall of Fame for so many years. And I am so happy that he's going in on the Veterans Committee. Everyone finally saw that his time is now. He's one of the greatest Raider coaches of all time. So he's going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this summer. And we can't wait to talk to him again. That'll be at the bottom of the hour. You know, I really love this Tom Brady. You see this? There's a new video now on his. By the way, Brady's Twitter and his Instagram have become as fashionable for me in looking at what he posts daily now in what the president of the United States, Donald Trump, used to post. I used to go to President Trump's Twitter page every single day because there'd be something either obnoxious or something that would just polarize the entire country, right or left. And what it did was it just got so many eyeballs on it that people hated him, people loved him, but they were engaged with him. Why do you think he's not on Twitter right now? Okay? You've got murderers that are on the Twitter platform. The Shah of Iran is still on the Twitter platform. That guy kills people daily. And he says crazy stuff daily. Nobody says anything to him. But Trump says something and he's off the platform. It's okay. It's okay. Everybody has a right to do whatever they want to do with their own platforms. Not shelling or stumping for anyone. But I'm talking about polarizing. And Tom Brady's polarizing. Tom Brady, okay, this new Tom Brady that we never saw for 20 years in New England, I love it. I really do think that he's setting now the stage for how we're going to see Tom publicly after he steps away from the NFL. Do you think Tom is going to be more of a guy who's going to be like a Tony Romo? Would you put him in the Monday night booth? Would he be a broadcaster, or would it be something completely different? Hosting a talk show? The Tom Brady Show. Would you check in? I would. He seems to be a fun guy. And so I think what he's doing now with his agent, Don Yee, I think these guys are starting to set the stages for what this guy can potentially do post-football. What's he going to do? Just sit back in his $1 billion, sit on his pile of money? Does that guy come off to you like he's that guy? Look at how cool. I'll tell you something else, too, about guys after their football that I'm really falling in love with. We had Archie Manning on with us a couple days ago. I love how Peyton Manning is so comfortable in his skin in who he is now. You know, I've always compared Peyton Manning to Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady to Tiger. Okay? Phil Mickelson's a great golfer. Don't kid yourself. Phil was one of the greatest golfers in the history of the sport. But do you know Phil Mickelson never became the number one golfer at any time in his entire career? He never went to the number one ranking. You would never know that because you know why? The popularity of Phil Mickelson, you would have went like this. You're telling me Phil Mickelson was never the number one ranked golfer in the world ever at any time in his brilliant career? Yeah, I am telling you that. That's a fact. Never number one. But because he was in the era of Tom Brady, or he was in the era of Tiger. You're not going to be number one when that guy's hitting golf shots. You're never going to be. It's like being in the era of Jordan. You really think anybody's ever going to look at any other basketball player during Jordan's era, like Karl Malone, and go, hey, man, as great as Karl Malone was, Karl Malone's the greatest power forward in the history of the game. Yeah, you could debate whatever you look at Tim Duncan as. You think he's a 4 or 5. It's up to you. Okay, when he was early in his career, Tim Duncan was a 4 because Robinson played the 5. You know, they would switch that up every now and then. Greg Popovich would go 5 and 4 with the flipping of the players because they were both very athletic. But however you saw Tim Duncan, if you think he's a power forward, he's a power forward. But, you know, he came into the league as a forward. He came in as a 4. He did out of Wake Forest because Robinson played the 5. So you can look at him like that. You could debate those two. But Karl Malone was never, I think Karl Malone, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's second all time in scoring points to Kareem. And you're never going to be in, and you would never know that. Just sitting around going like this. Hey, man. Okay, really? So, end of the day here, make no mistake about it. You know, you're looking at a guy in Tom Brady. I love this dude. I really do. All right. We're going to take a quick time out here. We're going to catch up with our friend Ted Robinson, the voice of the San Francisco 49ers. We'll do it next. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 to 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on 3, 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. Dan Sileo. Let me tell you something, man. My relationship with the San Francisco 49ers goes back a long way. You know, having played against the 49ers and being around the 49ers, being friends with Mr. DeBartolo, it just is an honor to be a friend with Mr. DeBartolo. I so love the guy. By the way, we have to get him on the program. And a couple of years back, my friend Ted Robinson became the voice of the San Francisco 49ers. And I was watching Ted a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago, when he was doing the French Open. And boy, you've been doing that for such a long period of time. Ted, thanks so much for coming aboard. I so enjoy watching you. I'm going to tell you something, Ted. I watch you, okay, for the major championships. I don't really know much about the guys that we see coming out of America today. But I'm telling you, you and John McEnroe, that's one of the best teams in all of broadcasting. That must be a boatload of fun to do.
Hey, Dan, nice being with you. And yeah, look, Mac is someone that I, never would have dreamt that I would have had 20 plus years of working with him, that he would become a friend and we would share a lot of things together. He's a brilliant analyst. As I've often said, there are three analysts to me that have stood out in my career above the rest, all of whom because my grandmother enjoyed listening to them. And it's John Madden, Johnny Miller, and John McEnroe. All of them made their sport enjoyable for my grandmother.
I just love listening to him. And I agree with you. I think John McEnroe is one of the best analysts. And when I mean by best analyst, it's almost like this, Ted. You could put John in any sport. I think you could put him in a Monday night booth. I think you could put him on the NHL ice. He's just one of those guys that his passion, really, you can feel it when it comes through the microphone.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, Dan, I turned on TV last night and there was Peyton Manning hosting a quiz show. And, Aaron Rodgers, we know about that. Once upon a time, John tried that game show. I think it was called The Chair. That was, I don't know how many years ago he tried that out. But I'm thinking back now, John's probably envious because suddenly Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning, and this is looking like it's an honorable profession. If you remember back, those of us of age, the old Mary Tyler Moore show, the great Mary Tyler Moore show, there was an episode where Ted Baxter, the news anchor, was going to leave to be a game show host. And Lou Grant, the guy that ran the newsroom, was taunting him by saying, Ted, you could be the anchor of the news in Minneapolis, or you could be a quiz master. And it was a great episode, a great old episode. And I keep thinking, and now Aaron Rodgers is going to leave the Packers to be a quiz master.
And not a bad price tag, too. $15 million from what I'm hearing. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hey, I may want to sign up for that. All right, Ted, let's get into the 49ers here. And they had a lot of moves and a lot of news this offseason here. Let me get your assessment on how you seen John Lynch fit into the role. I'll tell you, I love John. He and I have been friends a long time. And I think the playing, having been a broadcaster, you're seeing the game from about, above, like I'm going to use the term 30,000 feet. You see it from above. You've played it. It just seems that he's fit in so well on building that football team. It's almost in the same light as Carmen Policy and John McVay back in the day. I mean, they know what's really great and how to build that roster. I don't mean to load the question up for you here, but I mean, how do you see John's position there?
I so admire John because he filled, first of all, the most pressing need for the 49ers in their football operation, which was a front-facing person who could speak, who could explain what they were doing, who could relate to the various versions now of what we call media. The organization needed that. They had already picked their coach in Kyle Shanahan, but Kyle's not that person. They needed John's ability to handle that part of the GM job. And we all know that Kyle was going to be a very instrumental part of the roster pick and the construction of such. The great part for them over 4 years, they've worked well together. Kyle and John have worked well together. When they've had differences, they've kept him inside. And that's another part, Dan, that to me has been instrumental for John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan together. The 49ers had a horrible run of leaking information. And every person in that business, in the media, could know they could call somebody in the 49ers and get a scoop. And it was wrong. And John and Kyle came in and they immediately closed every single one of those holes. And 4 years later, they still have. That's been a value. Now, the question, quite frankly, is they need to have a little more success on the field. I mean, this is just a fact. They've been on the job 4 years. 3 of them have not been very good. 1 year was real good, but the other 3 weren't very good. And so, that's an equation that they need to start flipping back the other way.
How about this too, Ted? I said this, and I think anybody who watches Jimmy Garoppolo play, we all say this. He's a franchise quarterback. My problem with him is, and this is going to sound crazy, he's 22-8 as a starting quarterback, which is sensational. However, he's missed 53% of his starts as a member of the 49ers. I mean, the one thing that I loved what the Niners did this year, they drafted their future and they kept their present. When I mean they went out and got Trey Lance, potentially that's their future. But if Jimmy G, he lasts the 16 games, he's proven he could take it to an NFC championship game. So give me the synopsis of how you see this whole year in this roster with Garoppolo and Lance on this roster. Is this the last time we'll see this two duo together?
Yeah, I would suspect yes. Look, the 49ers didn't trade the capital they traded for that third pick to not have that person eventually play. Now, whether eventually is week 1, week 15, or next year, is it a Jordan Love scenario? None of us knows that answer. I will tell you a couple of things, Dan. One is Kyle Shanahan. I have been so impressed when I first met him and he came to the 49ers. He knew exactly what he wanted. And that was another vital element to the 49ers. They needed a firm identity. And for better or for worse, this is who we're going to be. And this is how we're going to try to build our team. And Kyle knows exactly what he wants in a quarterback. Now, the mystery is whether the Mac Jones was a smokescreen or whether that was legit. And at the end of the day, there was a late flip to Lance. I've heard that version. I don't know which version is true, but they have Lance. Kyle Shanahan will make that work. I'm guessing that Jimmy is there because Lance, we know he didn't play a lot of games. He doesn't come in with a ton of starts. The last guy that we saw come into the NFL that way was Trubisky. And, with Trubisky, flash is probably the best way to describe it. He hasn't had a sustained pro run yet. So they see that. They see Lance has, 13 starts or whatever it is. So you have Garoppolo. But I will tell you this. I believe this in my heart. Kyle Shanahan was a little bit of a later convert to the Jimmy G school. When Garoppolo had that great run at the end of 2017, wins 5 straight games, that was still a time when Kyle Cousins was the guy that Kyle Shanahan envisioned as his long-term play. Didn't happen. Garoppolo stormed through, wins the team, wins the fans, wins the job. He's no longer that solid person. So I would be stunned if Lance is not the quarterback at some point in 2021.
Ted, is this roster better than that Super Bowl roster of a few years ago?
If healthy, it would have a chance, but that's the big if. The 49ers have been deviled. Even before Lynch and Shanahan's arrival, they were bedeviled by injury, and they changed their training staff a couple of years ago. Hasn't improved the injury situation. So who knows why that is? I know there's a belief, Dan, and you played, so you can address this probably more smartly than I can. But I know there's a belief inside that in this day and age, players hear a lot more from their agents about, hey, sit out when you're not feeling right. Sit out. We want to get another deal. You want to stay in the game. So that injury that might have been, even when you played, might have been a 2-week injury. Today's a 4 or 5 week injury. I know there's a feeling about that inside. I can't prove that. I don't know who can. But that mindset I know exists. That's something I think the 49ers have tried to fight. So to your question, they have their offense is not a problem. With Kyle Shanahan, he's proven with Nick Mullins, with C.J. Beathard, with any number of running backs, Kyle Shanahan has proven he can scheme you and he'll score points. Their challenge is going to be on the other side now, replacing Robert Saleh. Can you get Joey Bosa back, who's a game changer? Fred Warner is a game changer. And do you have the secondary with Sherman apparently not coming back this year? Do you have the secondary strength to do it? Dan, they win the Super Bowl if they get one stop in the fourth quarter. They let Mahomes go down the field twice on them. You could let him go down once, right?
Yeah, right.
Once was okay. You still win. And they had to stop. They couldn't stop once. So that's the point. To me, it's their defense. If they can get that 1 or 2 stops in the fourth quarter of most games this year, Shanahan will score enough points to win.
Finally, Ted, you mentioned Kyle Shanahan, and everyone knows that he has great brilliance, and everyone knows that you're talking about putting a game plan together. You mentioned 3 of the years they've just not been very good. Are we looking, and I don't like to use the phrase hot seat stuff now, but how about this? Accountability has to come to a conversation when you're not winning. As you know, we all love one another in our business too, but if you're not producing, you're going to get a call from your program director or your news director or somebody running your company. I mean, are we coming down to production here where the 49ers would look at this and go, Kyle, it's just not working here?
That's a great question, Dan, because it's been very much unreported, unknown, even I think to casual fans around here, that again, the last 4 seasons, the 49ers had a Super Bowl year. The other 3 years, they lost 10 or more games. That's just a fact. And that is startling to people. When I say that to people, they go, "Ooh, wow, you didn't realize that." Now, obviously, the quarterback injuries are a part of that. Yet, I would suspect there are not many situations in the NFL where if you lose 10 plus games 3 out of 4 years, you survive. I don't think there'd be many. So I think it's a great credit to the way Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have handled themselves, have handled their business, have handled the organization. It's a great credit that they're not getting heat for that. If you have another 10-loss year, I mean, at some point, that's not what the NFL's about. So, you can't expect that to happen. And that's why I keep going back to what probably every team says, if healthy, we're there. The 49ers know that if health, and you're not going to be 100% healthy, but if they're 80% healthy with their key people, they're a Super Bowl contending team. There's no question. The quarterback issue is much less of a problem if the rest of that team is healthy around, as they were around Garoppolo, by the way, in 2019. That was a healthy team around him, and they had a hell of a good run. So, but yeah, I mean, it is a fascinating dynamic that Lynch and Shanahan have persevered and have survived so well, despite the fact that, 3 of those years, just 3 10-loss years that a lot of other organizations would have probably acted on.
Absolutely. Ted, it's always great catching up with you, my friend. Thank you so much for finding time for me. Keep up the great work, too, and all the major championships. I love watching you, U.S. Open, Wimbledon. It's all great watching you with John, and I love the fact that you're the 49ers voice. Thank you so much, my friend.
Same to you, Dan. Take care.
You got it. That is my friend Ted Robinson, the voice of the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, look, the 49ers, isn't that crazy when you talk about when you start evaluating John Lynch and you start evaluating Kyle Shanahan and you put that down on paper and you start doing this, have they really had a lot of success? I mean, 3 of those years that they've been together have been 10 lost seasons. Now, I would say this to you. Do you want to be an organization that's known as a conveyor belt of coaches and quarterback changes? No, you don't want to go through what the Cincinnati Bengals or what the Cleveland Browns went through when it came to trying to find a coach or trying to find a quarterback. You don't want to be in that rotation. You want to be more in a rotation where you're showing stability. And I think John, like I said, having been a Hall of Fame type player, having been around successful people his entire life, being a broadcaster and watching from so-called 30,000 feet above how other organizations are run, there's no doubt that he's taken that one factor that the Steelers have always had, and that was this. Look, don't do knee-jerk stuff. If you believe that you have the proper coach, you believe that you have the proper formula to go out and win, let's just stick to our plan. Jimmy Johnson, and I use him always as an example. Coach Johnson had a plan in Dallas. And even when that football team was 1-15, get this, there were people even in that organization. Dave Wannstedt came on this program and was basically saying, hey, Jimmy, do you think we should go to a 3-4 defense? Everybody in the league is doing it. You know what Coach Johnson said? No way. We're sticking to our plan. We're not going away from it. We're building the football team with a 4-front defense. That's how I'm going to do it. Come hell or high water, we're going to put that football team together like that. And so that's what they're doing in San Francisco right now. They're putting that football team together with a plan that's going to be that they're going to come hell or high water. They're going to die with the plan. And I love what they did this offseason here. They went out and they traded for Trey Lance. First off, they had to get a deal and a dance partner so that they could move up in the draft. They found it in the Dolphins. They moved into that 3-hole. And the debate was really whether or not it was going to be Mac Jones or whether or not it was going to be Trey Lance. And with today's quarterback, what did John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan kind of rely on? They looked more at the mobile quarterback. That's the kids that are coming out of college today. That's the people that you're looking more on how to build your franchise around. You're looking at the Lamar Jackson. You're looking at that kind of model for you to be able to build a football team. So, I mean, they did it right. Now the question is going to be, just like Ted Robinson said, it's going to be whether or not health is going to help that football team. All right, we're going to take a quick timeout. We're going to hopefully catch up with our friend and 2-time Super Bowl champion, Tom Flores. We'll do that next. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on three. 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show with your boy Dan Sileo. I couldn't wait to get this guy on. Have we been pimping him for, I don't know, the last 20 years to get into the damn Hall of Fame? Finally, these people got their brain cells together and did the right thing. And this year, my friend, from the Oakland, Los Angeles, Vegas, Al Davis Raiders is our friend, Tom Flores. Coach, how are you? Congratulations to you. We're getting closer and closer to the summertime into Canton. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I had back surgery about 9 weeks ago, so I'm healing well, and I'll be able to walk on the stage when I get there. And I'm counting down the days myself, Dan. It's been a long time waiting, but you know what? The waiting's over.
Coach, are you getting nervous a little bit? I mean, look, you've been at so many Super Bowls, so many giant games, such a legendary career. I mean, this is the crowning achievement, not just for yourself, though, Coach, for all your assistants, for your hard work, and get this, Coach, for the statement that it makes that you're truly the first minority head football coach to win a Super Bowl. All of those things and all those stories, it's got to have some pressure built around it.
Well, the pressure is what you make of it. And I never thought anything of it at the time that it was happening, because when I was hired by Al Davis, he didn't hire me because I was Hispanic. He hired me because he thought I could help him win, and I did. So, you know, that's the Hispanic thing just came later. Now it's more in vogue. It's more relevant now, I guess. But then it wasn't. And it's really, when you're working hard at things, you don't think about that. You just think about your job. How can I make it better? How can I do better? And enjoy the ride, because it's been a long ride. You've been there along with me, Dan. You know what it's like. And so it's about to come to the not the final climax, but the final glory, I guess. It doesn't get much better than this.
Absolutely. Who's going to introduce you, Coach? May I ask?
Still a secret. I haven't revealed it yet. I'm waiting to let them, waiting for the whole to let me know when to announce it. I asked them if they want the name yet. They haven't responded yet.
Well, that's going to be interesting with all the names that you've had in your Raider family and your life and your personal life. I wonder what do you think this means to the Raider family? Because, Coach, I've said this to you before. Of all the alumni around the National Football League, I think the Packers have a great one. I think the Steelers have a great one. But I think the Raiders are the greatest one, and how they see their former players and their former coaches. Just how it's being received all these months since it was announced that you're going into the Hall of Fame.
Well, it's the Raiders is a family. I always say it's a family. It started a little tiny family called the Oakland Raiders playing in San Francisco in front of 3,000 people. And little by little, that family grew. And then we moved across the bay back to our home. Then we moved to L.A. But every time you move, it's still like a family moving just to visit. This time it won't be a visit because everything they have there is magnificent. So it's been a delight. It's been fun traveling the roads with the Raider Nation along with me.
You know, I would say this to you too, Coach. How much pride do you take in being an old AFL guy?
Oh, I love that. I love that, man. Yeah, there's only 20 of us. There were only 20 of us that lasted 10 years of the AFL. And I don't even know how many are alive. Jim Otto is still alive. A friend of mine, Wayne Hawkins, is still alive. There's not that many of us still alive from the 1960 AFL. And to see it grow where the professional football is today, it gives me, I don't know how they feel about it, but I'm very proud of that.
Absolutely. I wonder what Al would think of this moment for you. You know, he it took John Madden for whatever years, and I used to tell Coach Madden this, you're kidding me, right? Why did I never knew Coach Madden when I was at KMBR in the Bay Area. I used to get Coach Madden and I go, Coach, you get the highest win percentage in the history of pro football. How are you not in the Hall of Fame? And he used to think it was a Raider thing. And I'm just wondering, both of you had to wait extended period of time. Do you really think that there was prejudice towards the two Raider coaches because of Al?
Well, I'd like to believe that there wasn't, but down deep inside, I think there was a little bit of a confusion there on who actually was and who actually wasn't. And they didn't get the right. They didn't do their homework, their due diligence. If you did your due diligence as a reporter, as a voter, you'd have known a long time ago who should be, and who shouldn't be.
What do you think Al would think of this moment for you?
Oh, I think he'd be ecstatic. I think he would. He always said, kid, they said, if it wasn't for me, you'd be there already. So Al, thank you. Your dream finally came through, and so is mine.
You mentioned earlier about, nobody cared in the Raiders that you were Hispanic. The story obviously yesterday, Coach, was that Carl Nassib came out as being the first active gay player in the National Football League. And you know what? The first thing that crossed my mind was Al would love this because Al was a person that hired the first Hispanic minority head football coach in you. Then he brought Art Shellin, the first woman in Amy Trask. There were so many firsts in that organization. And maybe I'm blowing it up more than I thought because I knew Al, as you know, very well too. I thought he would just love this. What says you on this?
Oh, no question. He would. Al used to beam, but he used to beam silently. He didn't go out and pound his chest and on Main Street. He would glow in his own way. And Al wasn't for everybody. John Madden said it the best. He said, Al Davis is not for everybody. And he wasn't. He was a unique individual who loved the profession he was in and loved the people that were in it with him.
So again, this is really a really historic moment. Just, do you know anything about the kid, Tom, and what kind of guy he is? Because I saw Derek Carr's tweet. Just everyone just absolutely loves the guy. He's a very private guy, from what I'm understanding. I'm just wondering, how people see him as a teammate.
Well, I would imagine that you always take a teammate the way he reacts and plays and studies and does his work, does his job. And I don't know the young man, but evidently what everybody is saying about him, he brings his lunch pail to work and he does his job. He's private. But, in today's world, it almost has to be semi-private, even though it's more acceptable now. But he still has to be a certain amount of privacy just to avoid the stupid criticism that he's probably going to still be faced with.
Coach, finally here, you do some broadcasting, obviously, for the Raiders. What's your thought process going into this year when it comes to the team? They've improved, not as much as people want to see, but they have improved every year that Coach Gruden has been there. Is this a year again for another step?
Well, I certainly hope so. I think you got to. I was really disappointed when their entire offensive line was moved. I mean, they lost everybody but one guy, and but they're little by little they're putting it back together. That's always the key, because the way the offensive line plays, that's the way that Derek Carr will operate. You give him the time, and he'll get the job done for you, and he'll help you win games in the fourth quarter. But having said that part, the defense has to win in the fourth quarter. And last year, they did not do that consistently, and it showed too many mistakes. They've made some changes. They're going to have to make big, not huge changes, because they do have some talent, but they're going to have to make some discipline changes.
You know, Coach, I'll leave you with this. That ice sculpture that you sent me on a text message from Coors was absolutely sensational. I hope they give you free Coors for the rest of your life now that you've gone into the Hall of Fame. Coach, that was really a cool promotion that they did for you, and it was really awesome, man. I mean, I went back and forth with the Coors people, and I showed them the picture. They're like, that is so fantastic. I said, yeah. Coach loved everything you guys did for him, and they were so thrilling.
Yeah, they had to be thrilled. It was a great promotion. I don't think that was the force that got the last vote. I think the votes were already in anyway by the time they jumped in. But still, it was fun for Coors Light, and fun for me and my friends. And I still have enough here that's going to last me a while.
Hey, Coach, I can't wait for this summer. Travel safe. I'm so happy your surgery went well. I can't wait to watch the Raiders this year. You know, I've been a gigantic fan of yours all these decades. Thank you so much for finding time for me, Coach.
Dan, always a pleasure. Anytime.
You got it. Tom Flores going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this coming summer. All right, we'll take a brief time out. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. Dan Sileo. I got to tell you some Al Davis stories. I worked for the Raiders. I was actually handpicked by Al Davis himself, and how it all started, our relationship. And Al was a textbook when it came to knowing former NFL players. No matter how many years you played, he knew who you were. So I get to a radio station in San Francisco called KMBR 68, and I get a job there, and I start hosting Sports Phone 68. And I'm on, and I'm doing real well, and I get a call from Mike Davis, who was the public relations guy with the Raiders. He goes, "Hey, Mr. Davis wants to meet you." I go, "Okay, like next couple of days?" He goes, No, he wants to meet you tonight for dinner. I was like, "Okay, well, I'm off the air at 10. He goes, "No, I know. He wants you to come over for a late dinner." So I was like, okay. And so I drove all the way from like San Francisco, where the station was, downtown San Francisco. I drove over to Oakland. And we lived on the other side of the bay, so it was not that far away from my home once I got done. So I go there. Sure enough, I walk into his office. There's a dinner laid out for us. We start talking just about family, life, football. And we just start talking. I looked up. I realized that it was 2:30 in the morning. And we had been there for all those hours just talking football. And so my relationship started to begin there with him. And he goes, "So what do you want to do? Do you really want to do broadcasting? Those guys are losers." And I started going, he goes, "Don't you want to be in the personnel department? I'll hire you right now." I said, "I'm going to make a go of this, coach." And the reason everyone called him Coach Davis, he was the former AFL Coach of the Year. And he started his career as a coach. He was a wide receiver coach. That's why Lance Allworth with the Chargers had him induct him into the Hall of Fame, because Al Davis was his position coach with the Chargers. Al was a coach at USC and Syracuse, I believe, also. And he was just a brilliant mind when it came to football. And so I said, "No, I'm going to stick with this a little bit." So he hired me as part of the broadcast team pre and post game when the Raiders moved back, I think it was 94, to the Bay Area. And we started this great relationship. So one day he calls me, goes, "Hey, you got to get over here. Got to get over. I want you to meet this guy." I go, because they were looking for a brand new coach. I forget who they had fired, Mike White, Joe Bugle, somebody in that room they had fired. And Al was so pissed at the franchise because, you got to remember, for many decades, the Raiders had the highest win percentage of any professional football team in America. They were like the Tiffany of winning. They didn't have as many Super Bowls as the Steelers, but they had a higher win percentage. Gruden's like, "You got to meet this guy. You got to meet this guy. So just don't say nothing. We're all going to be in the room. We're all going to watch." And I'm sitting in there, and I'm in there with Ken Herrick, Ron Wolf, myself, a couple other dudes from the personnel department. Jim Otto, I think it was Clyde Bradshaw, some other dudes. We're sitting in there. And this guy comes out of the room, and there's Al Davis at the chalkboard. He starts drawing plays up. This blonde-headed guy starts just drawing these plays. I mean, he's putting something on a chalkboard that looked like it belonged to NASA. And it was John Gruden. I believe he was the offensive coordinator of the Eagles at the time. And John had been interviewed by some other teams, I think, but Al brought him in, and we're sitting there, and it must have been 2 hours. Al would go like this. What's your philosophy? And John would go, and honest to God, I'd never seen anything like this. He would draw up situational plays, strong side sets, weak side sets, personnel groupings, this and that. Go here. This is what I would do if I had this player here. If I had Napoleon Kaufman, I would use him in the slot more here. And he was talking about Tim Brown, who was on the team at the time, who ended up going on and being a Hall of Famer. He says, maybe we need another tight end. in the upcoming NFL draft, which they ended up going out and drafting Ricky Dudley, who turned out to be a dud. And that's always been John Gruden's downfall, is that he thinks he's a personnel guy, which he's not. John's a really good coach. And if you watched him put these plays together. When John is in control of coaching, I'm going to tell you why John Gruden is not having the success that everyone thought he was going to have the second time around in Oakland. You see, the first time in Oakland, when he had all those great personnel people, John had very little say in the personnel. Very little say. And it aggravated him. It aggravated him. And I say this with all respect to John Gruden. I say it bugged John ego-wise that he didn't have more say in who he could bring into his football team. And that was the rub on why the relationship went south. Like I said to people before, if Al Davis were alive today, there is no way on the planet John Gruden would be the head football coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. There's no way. Al Davis hated John Gruden. It's a fact. I'll give you more intel on that in a second. He hated him. And when him and Bruce Allen decided to Judas him by wanting out, they both went to Tampa. That's how the trade went down. And when I got moved to Tampa and I was doing morning drive, I would get a call from Al Davis and Fudgy, his assistant, every week on what John Gruden and the Buccaneers were doing. They were bringing guys like Charlie Gardner in, all John Gruden's draft flops. And the reason that John wanted out of the Raiders is because he didn't have the personnel responsibility that he wanted. Well, when he got to Tampa, he brought 19 new guys in, like he had Brad Johnson on with us a couple days ago. And that first go-round, they brought some good people. But you know what you had in the room? You had Jerry Angelo. You had Rich McKay. You had really great people in the personnel department. Webster was in that front office, and they were more in control of the personnel. John ended up convincing the Glazers to get rid of him. And that became John Gruden's demise, was personnel. Cadillac Williams, really? Cadillac Williams over Adrian Peterson, really? I even said that to those guys. I'm like, you're out of your mind. You need to take that guy. No way. Look at Cadillac. He's great. I'm like, Cadillac didn't even start at Auburn. Ronnie Brown did. Every time they'd ask me about a guy, I go, he's a lollipop. This guy here is not going to pan out, man. Sure enough, man, they were terrible drafts. That's what got him fired. Then John goes to the Monday night booth. Bruce Allen takes over in Washington, and Rich McKay leaves, and he goes to Atlanta, and Jerry Angelo goes to Chicago, and Webster goes to Seattle. And they lost that entire department because Gruden wanted him out. That's how John got fired in Tampa. Fast forward, he's got now Mike Mayock in Las Vegas, but John's got say in the personnel. That's why that team's kind of limping and getting better. One win here. I think he's 19-29 since he's been the head football coach of the Raiders. That's not success when you give a guy 10 years, $100 million. John Gruden signed a 10-year, $100 million deal. Okay, and he's 19-29. Do you know who the guy who was the head coach prior to that? He was like, at least, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Del Rio was 29-26. Jack was making the team better. The football team was getting better. I thought he had more onions as a coach, the way he coached that team. But because they needed a rock star, I'll say, to move the team into Vegas, Jack Del Rio's not going to move the needle in Las Vegas. But a TV rock star like John Gruden is going to move the needle. That's why Mark Davis, and I think it was a brilliant move, but it wasn't really a good football move. You ended up going into the NFL Network to hire your GM, Mike Mayock, who had never had a personnel job in his life except for putting names down on a board. Well, I think this guy's good. Well, I could do that too, dude. Mike Mayock is not a professional general manager. He's a TV dude. John Gruden, a TV dude. That's what he became. Hey, and for the record, if you look at John Gruden's record, I think he's 3 games over 500 as a coach. You take the Super Bowl team away, he's underwater. John is a TV creation of himself. And it's got to wear out if he doesn't win this year, in my opinion. That football team's got to win, man. They've got to start putting – and you're in a division also where everyone's getting better. And my question to you would be, are you getting better? All right. Want to thank everybody for coming aboard here. Coach Flores, I can't wait to see him go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's always great to catch up with Ted Robinson, the voice of the 49ers. That's always great. I want to thank my guys, man. Hey, Krause, great stuff. Cal, you do such a great job. Big Joe, all good. By the way, if you missed any of the show, do me a favor. Go over to the JAKIB Media channel. You can like it, share it, do whatever with it, okay? Watch the show again if you have to. We really appreciate it. Okay, till tomorrow, 4 to 6 Eastern time. We'll see you on the flip side.